The morning mist clung to Cathar Ridge like a shroud, masking the treacherous terrain that had claimed 3 colonial survey teams in the past month. Captain Sarah Chun adjusted her tactical visor and signaled her squad to halt at the canyon's edge. Below them, the twisted wreckage of the Meridian transport lay scattered across the valley floor like broken bones. "Thermal scans show 1 survivor," reported Corporal Martinez, his voice tight with disbelief. "Human signature, approximately 2 clicks northeast of the crash site." Lieutenant Zhang lowered his binoculars, frowning. "How is that possible?" "The crash was 12 days ago. Nothing human should survive that long in Shadowclaw territory." Chun had seen the intelligence reports. The Shadowclaws were apex predators, 8 feet of muscle, razor-sharp talons, and teeth that could crush titanium. The indigenous Catharin species had been driven to the brink of extinction by these creatures centuries ago, surviving only in underground cities. No human had ever faced a Shadowclaw and lived to tell about it. "Sir," whispered Private Reeves, pointing toward a cluster of rocks near the survivor's position. "Movement. Large thermal signature." Through her scope, Chun watched a massive form emerge from the shadows. The Shadowclaw stood twice the height of a human, its midnight black carapace gleaming with morning dew. Powerful hindlimbs rippled with predatory grace as it moved toward the human heat signature. "Take the shot," Chun ordered, but Martinez hesitated. "Captain, look at the human." Chun focused her scope. A figure sat calmly beside the wreckage, apparently oblivious to the approaching death. The person she could see, now it was a young man, with auburn hair and torn colonial uniform, was doing something with his hands. He seemed to be preparing something. "Is he making a weapon?" Zhang asked. "No," Chun breathed, her blood running cold. "He's preparing food." The Shadowclaw approached within striking distance. Chun's finger tightened on the trigger, ready to provide covering fire for what would surely be a futile rescue attempt. The creature's massive head lowered toward the human, revealing rows of gleaming teeth. And then the impossible happened. The beast settled beside the human like a contented cat, its enormous head resting near the man's lap. The human reached out, Chun nearly gasped, and began stroking the creature's scarred snout with gentle, practiced movements. "Mother of stars," Martinez whispered. He's petting it." "Maintain position," Xian ordered, though her voice cracked slightly. "We need to understand what we're seeing before we act." Below them, the human continued his inexplicable communion with the galaxy's most feared predator, while 4 hardened soldiers watched in stunned silence from above. Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent 15 years studying xenobiology, but nothing in her extensive education had prepared her for the scene unfolding through her field glasses. She crouched beside Captain Chun's strike team, her scientific instruments recording data that would revolutionize everything the galaxy knew about Shadowclaw behavior. "The creature's stress hormones should be through the roof," she murmured into her recorder. "Instead, I'm detecting elevated levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This is impossible." Below in the valley, the human survivor had produced what appeared to be preserved meat from his pack. The Shadowclaw specimen that Dr. Vasquez estimated weighed nearly half a ton, waited patiently as the human carefully examined the food, removing some portions and setting others aside. "He's checking for parasites," she realized aloud, "looking for signs of contamination. This isn't random feeding. He knows this creature's dietary requirements." Lieutenant Zhang shook his head. "Doc, that thing down there killed my entire reconnaissance unit last month. It's not somebody's pet." "Then explain what we're witnessing," Dr. Vasquez challenged, adjusting her bioscanner. "The Shadowclaw's heart rate is actually decreasing in the human's presence. Its brain activity shows patterns consistent with ... affection." The human began speaking softly to the creature, though the words were too distant to make out. The Shadow Claw's massive head tilted, and it made a low rumbling sound that Dr. Vasquez had never heard in any of her field recordings. "It's purring," she whispered. "A half-ton apex predator is purring." Captain Chun studied the interaction through her tactical scope. "How long do you think this has been going on? Based on the human's behavior? Months, possibly years. Look at his movements. There's no hesitation, no fear. He knows exactly how to handle this creature." The human finished his inspection and offered the meat to the Shadow Claw. The beast's massive jaws, capable of severing a human torso, opened delicately to accept the offering. Instead of the violent feeding Dr. Vasquez expected, the creature ate with surprising gentleness. "This changes everything," she said, her voice filled with awe. "If humans can form bonds with Shadow Claws, the territorial disputes over this planet become meaningless," Chun finished. "But first, we need to understand how this is possible." The human reached into his pack again, this time producing a medical kit. Dr. Vasquez watched in fascination as he began examining what appeared to be a healing wound on the creature's flank, a long gash that looked suspiciously like a weapon's. "Burn. He's been treating its injuries," she observed. "This isn't just feeding, it's comprehensive care." Corporal Martinez shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, what if we've been wrong about these creatures? What if they're not the mindless killers we thought?" Dr. Vasquez lowered her instruments, her mind racing with implications. "Then we need to completely reassess our understanding of intelligence, emotion, and the capacity for interspecies bonding." Below them, the human continued his gentle ministrations while the Shadow Claw, the galaxy's most feared predator, submitted to his care with trust that defied everything they thought they knew about the nature of monsters. Ambassador Kethai of the Kethran deep cities had not seen natural sunlight in over 2 decades. Her pale, elongated limbs trembled as she emerged from the underground transport, her large eyes struggling to adjust to the brightness of Kethra Ridge. But the reports from the human military team had been too significant to ignore. The surface. "Dwellers speak truth?" she asked Captain Chun in carefully pronounced standard. "Human bonds with the Shadow Death?" Chun nodded grimly. "See for yourself, Ambassador. But prepare yourself, it challenges everything your people have told us about Shadow Claws." Through the provided field glasses, Kethai observed the impossible scene. The human she could see now, he was quite young, perhaps barely into adulthood, sat beside the massive predator with casual familiarity. The creature's scarred hide bore the marks of countless battles, yet it lay docile as a domestic animal. "This cannot be," she whispered in her native tongue, then switched back to standard. "The Shadow Death destroyed our surface cities, drove our people into the depths. They know only killing." Dr. Vasquez joined them at the observation point. "Ambassador, we've been monitoring their interactions for 3 days. The human calls the creature Onyx, apparently a name he gave it based on its coloring. Watch this." Below, the human stood and walked toward the crash site. The Shadow Claw immediately rose and followed, positioning itself between the human and the valley's various dangers. When the human began searching through debris, the creature stood guard with obvious protectiveness. "It's defending him," Chun observed, "not hunting, protecting." Kethai's translator device struggled with her rapid, emotional speech. "Impossible. The Shadow Death know no loyalty. They are, how you say, engines of destruction. What if you're wrong?" Dr. Vasquez asked gently. "What if they're capable of more than your people realized?" The human found what he was looking for, a piece of twisted metal, and began working on it with tools from his pack. The Shadow Claw settled beside him, occasionally nudging him with its massive head when he paused in his work. "He's making something," Martinez observed. "Some kind of tool or weapon." "No," Kethai said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "He makes toy. for playing. Indeed, the human was fashioning what appeared to be a crude ball from the salvaged materials. When he finished, he held it up, and the Shadow Claw's attention focused entirely on the object. They play together, the ambassador breathed, like ... like younglings. The human threw the improvised ball, and the massive predator bounded after it with surprising grace. The creature's powerful jaws, evolved for rending flesh, carefully retrieved the object without damaging it. Your people survived in the depths for centuries, Dr. Vasquez said carefully. But this human has been living openly on the surface, with a Shadow Claw as a companion. Maybe the hostility between your species was based on misunderstanding. Kethai lowered the field glasses, her large eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and fear. If true, if the Shadow Death can be ... friends, then perhaps my people can return to the light. Captain Chun studied the alien diplomat. What would that mean for the colonial expansion here? It means, Kethai said slowly, that this human may have accomplished what neither our species nor yours could achieve alone. He may have found the key to peace on Kethera. Below them, human and Shadow Claw continued their game, unaware that their simple friendship was reshaping the future of an entire world. Asterisk. The arrival of the Terran colonial authorities' warship Dominator shattered the peaceful morning on Kethera Ridge. Admiral Hayes materialized on the plateau with a full combat team, his weathered face grim with determination. Captain Chun, you're relieved of command, he announced without preamble. Your failure to eliminate the Shadow Claw threat has compromised this entire operation. Chun stepped forward, her jaw set. Sir, with respect, the situation is more complex than initial reports suggested. Complex? Hayes gestured toward the valley, where the human and his unusual companion continued their daily routine. A colonist has been infected with some kind of alien parasite or mind control. The creature is clearly using him as bait to lure in more victims. Dr. Vasquez clutched her data pad. Admiral, my research shows no evidence of parasitic infection or mind control. The relationship appears to be genuine mutual. Doctor, you're a xenobiologist, not a military strategist. Hayes cut her off. That thing down there has killed hundreds of our people. It's a weapon that needs to be destroyed. Ambassador Kethai stepped forward, her pale form trembling with emotion. Admiral Hayes, please. This human shows us new possibility. Perhaps the Shadow Death can be, how you say, reasoned with. Hayes studied the Ketheran diplomat with barely concealed impatience. Ambassador, your people have been hiding underground for centuries because of these creatures. Don't let one anomaly cloud your judgment. Target acquired, reported the ship's tactical officer through the comm. Orbital strike ready on your command. Wait, Chun shouted. Let me go down there. Let me talk to him first. Negative. The risk is too great. Below in the valley, the human seemed to sense the tension. He stood, placing a protective hand on the Shadow Claw's massive head. The creature's posture shifted, becoming more alert, more dangerous. He knows we're here, Dr. Vasquez observed, and the Shadow Claw is responding to his emotional state. The human cupped his hands around his mouth and called up to them. His voice carried clearly in the morning air. Please, don't hurt her. She's not what you think. Her? Lieutenant Zhang looked confused. The creature's female? She's pregnant, the human continued, his voice cracking with desperation. She's carrying the last clutch of eggs on the planet. If you kill her, you're committing genocide. Admiral Hayes paused, his hand hovering over his communicator. Pregnant? How could he know that? Dr. Vasquez was already scanning with her instruments. He's right. I'm detecting multiple embryonic life signs within the creature's body cavity. Admiral, if this is the last breeding population, it changes nothing, Hayes said firmly. These creatures are too dangerous to allow to reproduce. Sir, Chon said quietly, what if the human is right? What if we're about to commit genocide against a species that might be capable of coexistence? The Shadow Claw moved closer to the human, her massive form curling protectively around him. The human stroked her scarred hide gently, whispering words of comfort. They're protecting each other, Ambassador Kethai observed. Both species, together against threat. Admiral Hayes watched the scene below, his expression troubled. Dr. Vasquez, how long until those eggs hatch? Based on the bioscans? Perhaps a week, maybe less. And if they're born in the presence of a human? Dr. Vasquez looked up from her instruments, understanding dawning in her eyes. They might imprint on humans the way this one has. Admiral, we could be witnessing the birth of a new kind of relationship between our species. Hayes stood silent for a long moment, weighing the possibilities against the risks. Below them, the human continued his vigil over the last Shadow Claw, while the future of 3 species hung in the balance. 3 weeks later, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the newly constructed research facility at the base of Kethra Ridge, watching through reinforced windows as an extraordinary scene unfolded. The human survivor Marcus Chun, a xenobiology graduate student whose transport had crashed during a routine survey mission, sat surrounded by 3 Shadowclaw hatchlings, each no larger than a house cat, but already showing the intelligence and affection that had revolutionized galactic understanding. The imprinting process is remarkable, she spoke into her recorder. The hatchlings respond to human vocal patterns, human emotional states, even human body language. They're learning to be companions rather than predators. Ambassador Kethai approached, no longer the pale, trembling figure from the underground cities. Weeks of surface living had restored color to her skin and confidence to her movements. The Deep Cities Council has voted, she announced. We will return to the surface. The first settlement will be established within the month. Captain Shun No, longer under Admiral Hayes's command, but now leading the new Joint Species Cooperation Initiative, nodded with satisfaction. The Colonial Authority has also approved the revised settlement plan. Humans and Ketherans will share the surface, with the Shadowclaws as ... mediators. Through the window, they watched as Marcus demonstrated basic commands to the hatchlings. The mother Shadowclaw, whom Marcus had named Onyx, supervised with patient attention, occasionally correcting her offspring's behavior with gentle nudges. It's still hard to believe, Lieutenant Zhang said, joining the group. 6 months ago, we considered these creatures our greatest threat. Now they're helping us establish communication protocols with other indigenous species. Dr. Vasquez smiled. The hatchlings are learning multiple languages, Standard, Ketharan, and their own species' complex pheromone communication. They're natural translators. Admiral Hayes entered the observation room, his expression far more humble than it had been weeks earlier. The Terran High Command has approved the establishment of the Kethra Interspecies Academy. Dr. Vasquez, they want you to head the program. What program? She asked. Teaching humans how to bond with previously hostile alien species. Apparently, word of what happened here has spread throughout the galaxy. We're receiving requests from dozens of worlds where humans and aliens have been unable to coexist. Marcus looked up from his work with the hatchlings and waved to the observers. One of the young Shadowclaws mimicked his gesture, its small talon raised in an almost human wave. The sight brought tears to Ambassador Kethai's large eyes. He saved us all, she whispered. One human's kindness toward a wounded creature changed the fate of 3 species. Captain Shun studied the scene thoughtfully. What do you think made it possible? How did he know to trust her when every instinct should have told him to run? Dr. Vasquez considered the question. I think it's something fundamental about human nature, the ability to see beyond surface appearances. to recognize intelligence, an emotion in unexpected forms. Marcus saw past the teeth and claws to the sentient being beneath. And what did Onyx see in him? Hayes asked. Probably the same thing, Dr. Vasquez replied. A being capable of compassion, patience, and love. The capacity to heal rather than harm. Outside, the sun was setting over Kethra Ridge, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. The first Kethran settlers were already arriving, their pale forms moving confidently across the surface their ancestors had fled. Human colonists worked alongside them, building not just structures, but relationships that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Marcus sat quietly with Onyx and her offspring, sharing an evening meal as they had for months. The image of a human feeding a beast had become something far more profound, a symbol of hope, understanding, and the transformative power of looking beyond fear to find friendship. The beast of Kethra Ridge had become its guardian, and in doing so had shown the galaxy that monsters exist only in the minds of those who refuse to see the possibilities that lie beyond their prejudices. Asterisk.